It's time now for Fantasy Football Today for CBS Local Sports. I'm Jamie Eisenberg. That's Dave Richard. We're going to give you some starts and sits to help you win in week number 12. Let's start at the quarterback position. And Andy Dalton, you get the dream matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Dalton, in his last 5 games against Cleveland, 14 touchdowns, no interceptions. That includes a 35 fantasy point performance against the Browns in week number 4. He will light them up again this week. And the guy you want to sit is Jared Goff. He's been fantastic this season, but we've seen him in some tough matchups struggle, and this is still a tough matchup, even with the Saints dealing with some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. We know that Goff will not have Robert Woods out with a shoulder injury, and he's coming off a 9-point fantasy performance last week against Minnesota.
We've seen a lot of young running backs get big opportunities, and we're seeing that in Baltimore with Alex Collins, 18 or more carries in 2 of his last 3 games, 20 carries last week. I think the Ravens know that he's their lead running back. Tough matchup for him against Houston, but game flow helps him. I think this is a matchup where Baltimore can have the lead and then sit on it with Alex Collins. I would expect him to do about 80 yards and a touchdown, get him in your lineup. And a running back that I'm nervous about this week is DeMarco Murray. To me, he's a touchdown or bust running back. He's been averaging 3.3 yards per carry in 5 straight games. He's easier to start in PPR because he catches more passes, but he's splitting that rushing workload with Derrick Henry. And Indianapolis hasn't allowed a touchdown to a running back in 3 straight games. So I am nervous to go with Murray.
It's been relatively easy to figure out when T.Y. Hilton's going to play well and when he's going to struggle. And one of the times we thought he was going to play well was his earlier meeting with the Titans. That didn't happen, but I think he rebounds this week. Tennessee comes into this game with the opposing #1 receiver scoring at least 9 fantasy points in the standard league in 3 games in a row. And I think we all saw last week how Antonio Brown lit them up. So T.Y. Hilton coming off his bye week. Now that he knows Jacoby Brissett's his starter for the rest of the way, I think he takes advantage of this situation and has a big blow-up spot this week. And the guy who's been fantastic, look, Larry Fitzgerald continues to defy age. Please don't retire, Larry Fitzgerald. Keep it going for year after year after year, even though you're 34 years old. But this is the most brutal matchup of anybody at any position, really, certainly at the wide receiver spot. He may not have to deal with Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Bouye all game, but he's going to see them at times, and certainly with the quarterback situation being what it is with Blaine Gabbert, I don't want to trust Larry Fitzgerald this week, a #3 fantasy wide receiver at best.
I like that you like T.Y. Hilton. I like where your head's at. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game between those 2 teams. Lots of passing, and that's why I'm on the Jack Doyle bandwagon. Had 7 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown earlier this season against the Tennessee Titans. I think he comes through with the stat line like that again in Week 12. Get him in your lineups. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins hasn't scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. He's averaging 7.4 yards per grab. He's second on a Panthers secondary that's getting healthier and getting stronger. Tough matchup for him coming off the bye week. He's going to have to find the end zone in order for him to be good for your fantasy team. I don't think he does it.
These have been your starts and sits for week number 12. We want to wish you good luck as you make your final push for your fantasy playoffs. For Dave, I'm Jamie. This has been Fantasy Football Today for CBS Local Sports.